Hi guys, White Witch 110 here. I am back. I've had a request to read the next part of the Cabin series. It's called The Choice. Here we go. The morning after their wedding, they woke to the sound of a light rain. The unmistakable smell of earth came through their window. There was no hurry to get out of bed. This was a time to relax. The families had left around 1 with well wishes for them. There was no comparison with her first wedding to Scott. This union felt right. There was no drama. The day had flowed easily. Abigail was happy for the first time in years. Sage had been resting on his elbow, watching her sleep. He had the woman he loved. This was the beginning of a great journey. He was ready for anything. The universe knew what it was doing. Sage smiled. Slowly, Abigail opened her eyes. "What are you smiling about?" "Waking up beside my wife," he responded. "Really? Where is she?" Sage reached his free hand to her face. "I love you." "I love you too. This feels so wonderful. We can get on with our life now." "You know," Abigail sat up, "I used to wonder what it would be like to be married to you. I used to practice writing my name with yours." She laughed as her face turned red. "Well, baby, you're going to find out." The following day, it was back to the old grind. Both sat at their respective laptops, working away. Sage sat with his noise-canceling earphones, so he wouldn't be disturbed. Abigail handled the odd call that Mel would forward. Even though they were working in the same room, by the end of the day, it was as if they hadn't. Each was so engrossed, it was like they were elsewhere for that time. "Busy day, sweetie?" Sage inquired. "Not too bad. Mel handled most of the calls. There was only a couple of problems. All taken care of. How about you?" She sat back in her chair. "Got 2 videos done. Wasn't anything too difficult. Pretty straightforward. The next one I'll need all tomorrow." "What are you doing tomorrow?" "Only 5 calls to confirm with. Mel will handle everything once that's done." "Think you'll be free for lunch?" she asked. "Anything for you." He reached over and took her by the waist, pulling her down on the sofa. "I need some loving." "You got it, sweetie." It was agreed they would buy a couple of acres of land and build. This home would reflect both of them. Staying with Tiny would work. A shared office was important, as well as a professional space for Sage. Double garage, also important. It would be complete by Christmas, their first together. Nicole and Brad were coming for dinner. Abigail made sure everything was in order. She greeted her cousin with the biggest hug. After a lovely dinner, cooked by Sage, the women made their way to the rooftop lounge. "What a view from here. I wasn't sure why you were doing this, but it's obvious," Nicole said, gazing out across the valley. "How are things?" "Wonderful. This is the happiest I've been." "I'm glad to hear that." Nicole debated with herself, even though she knew she would ask. "Has Scott been in contact?" "No." A simple enough answer. "Does it bother you?" "No. Why should it?" "Nicole, I've moved on. My future is with Sage." Abigail kept her temper in check. "Old habit on my part. Sorry." Down below, the men had been listening on the deck. "See? Nothing to worry about. I told you. He was out of the picture," Brad said to Sage. "You're the man." Sage laughed. "Yes, I am. I finally won the girl." He's dating that Deb woman. Nicole felt the need to continue. That's great for him. Maybe she's the one. Abby felt a relief. She didn't want Scott to be on his own. She wanted him to be happy. Maybe she is. How would you feel if they get married? Nicole, what is it with this questioning? Are you hoping for some kind of answer from me? I'd be happy for him. What do you expect? Do you think I'd freak out? No, I wouldn't. I don't know what to say to make you understand he's a part of my past. We've had a nice dinner with great conversation. Now, for some reason, you want to ruin it. You'll never leave well enough alone. Abigail climbed down the stairs. Brad, it's been great having you over. She leaned forward to kiss his cheek. I've got a headache. She made her way inside. Moments later, Nicole came down. Thank you, Sage, for a wonderful dinner. You're welcome. Sage stood to hug her. We'll have to do this again, Brad said, shaking hands. Sage made his way inside. Abigail? She just can't accept my life. She kept at me about Scott. I don't understand her problem. What do I say to prove I'm finally content? Then she says he's dating that Deb person. I really don't care. I'm happy for him. Then she asks how I feel if they got married. That would be great for him. He's a good guy. He should have a person in his life. She turned to Sage. I have no answers as to why your cousin acts like she does. Maybe she secretly wants you back with him. Well, that isn't what I want. And that was the end of the evening. In the morning, Sage got to work on his editing. Abigail made a trip to the office. Mel, what's up? She shouted, walking in. Hey, girl, good to see you, he remarked as she sat at her desk. Just a few signatures needed. Nothing that should take long. Thought I'd spend some time here today. Sage is busy editing. So you have me for most, if not all, of the day. Just like the old times. Mel was happy to see her. Abigail's morning was lessening the pile on her desk. The pair took lunch at Dan's. Abigail, where the hell you been? You get married and we don't get to see you anymore. What's up with that? Dan asked. I'm still working from home most of the time. I came in today because Sage is busy. Dan seated them at a small table. They ate a light meal and Dan joined them. Any chance you're thinking of another session here? He asked. She looked puzzled. Singing. Oh, I'm not singing. I never was going to. I only did that because Sage asked me to. Abigail explained. Well, I hope he asks you again. I have customers who've been asking for you. Of course, some wonder if you'll hook up with Scott. His name sent a shot through her. In all honesty, she didn't want his name mentioned. That is not happening. We have separate lives now. There won't be any collabs between us. Abby trusted this was clear enough. I'm not singing. Dan took the hint but did not mention it again. Making it back to the office around 1, Abigail wrapped up what was left on her desk. I think we're good now, Mel said. All right. Well, I'm making my way home. Remember to call me if you need me. Will do. Mel called out to her as she left. The drive home had Abigail thinking about the numerous changes in her life. As she pulled into the driveway, she could see another car parked in front of the house. She didn't recognize it. Pulling up beside it, Abby took her time peering inside it. No clues as to who owned it. Opening the front door, she could hear Sage and someone else talking. She made her way to the studio. Neil! It was his cousin. How are you? She hugged him tightly. I'm fine. Finally made it here. He drove across country to get here. Sage jumped in. Wow. It'll be some trip going home, too. I hope you're staying a while, Abby told him. I'll be here for a while. Matter of fact, I'm moving here. Sage convinced me on his last trip to Toronto. It will be great having a member of Sage's family here. Have you found a place or looked online? Abby inquired. Haven't physically looked, of course, but I will be, Neil replied. Well, I hope Sage welcomed you to stay here in the meantime. I did, babe. I told him you wouldn't mind. They sat around the table enjoying lasagna. I hate to be a party pooper, but I'm tired. I'll catch up with you in the morning. She kissed Sage and made her way to bed. You're happy, dear cousin. I can see that. I'm glad for you. All these years, you never stopped thinking about her. Now you're married to her. Best thing that ever happened to me. Sage and Neil talked till early morning. Time for bed. I'm dog tired. Neil thanked him and went to the guest room. Sage opened the door slowly. Abigail was sound asleep. He changed and crawled in beside her. Abby turned into his body and smiled. Everyone slept well. The initial excitement of the visit was over. Tomorrow, they would show Neil around. Scott and Deb were moving in together. He questioned himself and the motives again. Was Deb just a replacement? Was he using her until he had Abigail back? It was clear Abigail had moved on and never intended to go back. The following day, the couple took Neil around as promised. Sage, can I ask you something? Neil was uncomfortable. Sure. Can I get a job with you? I can suggest they hire you, he replied. No, I mean you and I start up a company. We both know the work. I think we could do it. Neil was hopeful. I have thought of this before, he admitted. Well, think seriously. I'm game. The suggestion was so tempting. The next morning, Neil woke to singing. Curiously, he got out of bed to investigate. He found Sage brewing coffee. Is that Abby? He inquired. Yes, Sage responded. My God, she has an amazing voice. Why is she wasting time behind a desk? She doesn't want to sing professionally, Sage informed his cousin. I think she should. What a waste, Neil said again. He snuck down the hall and listened at the door. So beautiful, he whispered. All went quiet behind the door. Seconds later, it opened. Can I help you, Neil? Abby asked. You have an amazing voice. Thank you. And no, Sage knows I'm not interested in that. She knew what was coming. But you should. Why waste yourself behind a desk? Neil said to her. I love being behind that desk. I don't want a spotlight on my life. They made their way to the kitchen. I've seen what it's like. I don't want that. I still say it's a shame. Abigail had at one time dreamed of having a career singing. Those days were long ago when she first met Scott. Now singing was only for her pleasure. She and Sage always sounded good together. Still, it was only for them. Neil was determined to get her into a recording studio. He checked a couple of them and settled on one close to her area. Now the chore was getting her there. Neil realized it would take a while to convince her. I will leave it there. And tomorrow I am busy all day waxing, but I may get back to it. I'm even having a feeling maybe I've already read this part before. I'm not sure. I don't think I have, though. It gets like that because I read through and I take out stuff I don't like that I've written. So it's like, haven't I read this before? But I will continue with that one. And I have also finished the next part to the next part. This is like a story that is never going to end. I enjoy writing it. I enjoy the characters. What can I say? Okay, so thank you for joining me. If you want to see anything paranormal, please check my other channel, Haunted Maple 112. That is where all of the ghost box sessions I do, any SLS, any spooky stories that I've written, that is where all of that is going to be going. This channel will be reading these types of stories, the cooking and the crafting, and showing you around town. That's what this one is mainly going to be. So anything paranormal, spooky, is going to be on the other channel from now on. So, thank you again for joining me. It is greatly appreciated. Those of you who hung in there, well, I took some personal time. It is greatly appreciated that you're coming to see what I'm doing today. I hope you enjoyed the foggy morning video. That was amazing, simply amazing. I would have loved to have gotten out of the cab and walked through the fields and the farm with the fog, but we had to get to work. So, also my knee, I think I mentioned that I had fallen. It is still bothering me. I went to the doctor. She wants to check on if I chipped the bone. I've been getting tingling, which is a sign that it is starting to heal. The swelling, we won't even talk about that. But, yeah. It's going to be a long road. Still some numbness. Depending on how much I do, it tends to... What's the word? I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Tends to spread. That's it. So, I went for the x-ray today, so by Monday or Tuesday, they said the doctor should have it, so she'll let me know then. Just ice it. That's the best thing I can do. And so, as always, have a great time. It's a little cloudy here today, warm. Tomorrow is supposed to be 39 Celsius. I didn't check to see what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's probably way up there. Also found out that our Canada Day, I am so glad that I came in 2007 and that I got to experience Canada Day in 2008. It was spectacular. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But this year it's going to be extremely different. The Freedom people that were here in the winter are supposedly going to be making their way back here. Nobody knows why. But most of downtown is going to be cut off to traffic with heavy machinery. And they are moving, from what hubby read, they're going to be moving festivities to another location. Not only because of these people, but because there is some work being done on Parliament Hill. And I believe part of it is the archaeological dig that was happening there. And that's right where the stairs are to go up to the center block. And that's usually where the stage is. So everything's been moved to another location. and that'll be by our War Museum. And the walking trails and biking trails there have or will be closed to the public. That'll be for next week. Friday is Canada Day. And from what hubby heard, it sounds like at least the downtown core is going to be closed off until the 4th. So, big mess. We were hoping that this was going to be a different Canada Day and somewhat back to normal, but it doesn't look like it. Oh well. Anyways, again, here I go. Hubby should be home soon. We have a few things to do before we relax for the evening. So until the next time, ciao for now.